Hello, Julie Barkas here. Welcome to Get Connected with Julie and Michael. We're thrilled to bring you this show live 2 times per week. You'll catch us Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 a.m., 9 a.m.-ish Central Standard Time and 10 o'clock Eastern Time. So, Michael, I'm thrilled to be here with you again. We had a great first show, I think.
It was a great first session. Really enjoyed the feedback. So keep the questions coming. Keep sharing the show. We are here to serve you and just keep the value coming as much as we can.
Yeah, and today we're going to recap a little bit about what we talked about in the first show, see how your homework went. And if you do have questions for us, I will try to check on my main page, my business page, for some questions or comments as we bring our guest in later on. But we want to recap a little bit, and then we really want to talk about building a strong financial future for yourself. And to me, it's about really looking at all aspects of your business model from how are you doing on enrollments right now? And if you weren't full before the pandemic, it's more important to be planting those seeds right now. And then also joining us is going to be my friend and accountant, Maddie Brown, who is going to be answering your questions about really setting yourself up for financial success as you move forward. And we really want you to think about yourself rising and thriving way beyond what's going on right now. And if that's your goal, you're going to want to stay tuned for this entire show.
Love it. Yeah, I mean, one of my biggest personal takeaways from the show, man, I got just as much value out of us just having a conversation. And really what hit home for me was just to make sure that all of you have a future that is brighter and more grandiose in this beautiful vision rather than your current circumstance. And I think that, obviously there's a lot of tactics that we're going to present, and we can throw, different ideas and different things like that at you. But at the end of the day, if you're pigeonholed in everything that's going on with your current situation, your current circumstances, and you're only thinking about that, it's going to be a bit of a challenge in going forward. So that was one of my biggest takeaways. I don't know, Julie, if you have kind of one of your big takeaways from our first inaugural episode, but that was one of my favorite things.
I do. And if you missed it, you got to go back and watch it. I think there were many motivational moments as well as some specific and concrete strategy, which is always the nice blend that I try to bring to the industry is, yes, it's about attraction. Yes, it's about mindset, but it's also about concrete strategies. And Michael really gave us that. And one thing we have to know is that if we just have the mindset without taking the right action steps, we're not going to get results. So I tell a lot of our clients, it's like you could sit there and think about success, meditate your way to success and go, where are the clients? Are they? They're coming. And they're still not going to come because you've got to keep your energy in alignment with the action that you need to be taking. And Michael gave us three fantastic, I believe it was three steps that we can take regarding just communicating with your current clientele. And you could even extend those beyond your current clientele. So that was my biggest, is to keep communicating, keep staying in the frame of action. Even if you're doing it in your pajamas, eating popcorn, reach out and call somebody. Shoot a text message to your clients. And I'm not going to give it all away because I want you to go back and watch the first episode. But, but those are some of my big takeaways.
Love it. We would love to hear how you did on the homework. So both Julie and I ended the episode and we gave you kind of the one big action step from each of us. So we'd love to hear how you did on the homework. So if you want to put it in the news feed and just say, did it, didn't do it. If you have some questions or clarification that you need, and we're going to be starting to give away kind of some fun prizes and things like that. I just ordered
some t-shirts from our new line.
Yeah, Julie's got some beautiful t-shirts of Always Essential. I can't wait to start sporting that gear on our episodes. I had our team order some more books. So we've got some books on 100 ways to, I think it's enrollments on demand, like 100 leads in 100 days, or I can't even remember what the titles are of some of these books. But we just want to start giving some stuff away, but we want to make sure that you're taking those actions. And as Julie said, obviously you can sit there and meditate. And I think that's where a lot of the challenge came with that movie from way back when called The Secret. It was, a lot of rah, and it was great, but it didn't have the second piece of it of actually taking the strategic actions to get you to the places that you need.
Yeah, and I think it has to be the right action, and the right action is going to be different for everybody. And even before this pandemic, there are people, and you've probably had the same thing, Michael, where people come up to you and say, you know what? I got that system in a box. I got that thing and I heard the success stories and it just didn't work for me. And that's because you're not in alignment with it. And that's okay. And I want you to really get in alignment first with your vision and then figure out the strategy that does work for you so that you do get results. And there's a multitude of strategy out there, but if one thing didn't work for you, don't think, and this is where our minds go to a lot, there's something wrong with me. What am I doing wrong? How come I'm not as good as that center or that owner or that person? So we don't want your mindset to go to that place. You just got to know that there's an alignment. And I go to the chiropractor a lot. I'm a huge fan. But one of the things that he works to do is always get me back in alignment, right? Because if my spine's not in alignment and I go and I work out my muscles, I'm not going to get the results that I would like to get if everything was in alignment and things were firing up properly. So keep that in mind. There's nothing wrong with you. It's not that you're not as good as you are. Absolutely brilliant. It's just about finding the right strategy that's going to work for you.
Oh, and the thing that I'd love to add on to that, and that I think we can kind of pivot over to giving a couple of thoughts on driving some enrollments, because that's obviously what a lot of you are saying. Hey, I mean, how do we get some enrollments? I know that Julie is seeing it. I'm seeing it. We're seeing a lot of upticks in centers just over the last couple of days. A lot of centers that we've got, they can't even handle the phone volume because parents are finally starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. The thing that I'd love to add on to what you just said is I hear this often, same kind of thing, Julie, of, well, why isn't it working for me? But I would push back a little bit on some of these strategies. I mean, I hate to use the word, I mean, sure or bulletproof or whatnot, but there are certain strategies that they should be working 100% of the time. But I always add an asterisk that it's got to work 100% of the time if you deploy them correctly.
Right.
So like we do, Facebook ads, Google ads, lots of paid traffic. And I'll hear from centers, well, we tried Google AdWords and it didn't work. And then when I start kind of unwrapping or peeling back the layers of the onion, well, tell me a little bit more about this. Did you have an offer? How was your follow-up? Well, the leads weren't that good. So it's also goes back to a lot of what you teach around mindset of, if you're already coming into a new relationship or you're already going in and trying out a tactic and you're thinking, well, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. I mean, you're not going to give it a fair shake when there are certain strategies and tactics that I see working close to 100% of the time, almost like a paint by numbers. But if you're going in again with that mindset, it makes it really, really tough for it to work.
And that's the truth about anything. And if there's anything I want you to take away from this, I'm going to give you this nugget. I'm going to say this a lot. It's the energy behind the intent that gets you the results. And this is huge. I would write that down and say, where's my energy? And I use the example on the first show about our help wanted ads. If we're coming from a place of fear and desperation, when we put out those ads, we're going to get fearful and desperate results. The same thing is true with anything you do, whether it's Google ads or your website. And if there are negative things that you're thinking about any of these things, so if you're like, yeah, I'd really like new clients, but man, my website sucks, you've got to clear that energy and clear that thought. So you either come to love your website as it is and think it's the most wonderful, beautiful thing there is, or you contact Michael and you say, okay, we need some help with our website, and at least to make it 5 steps better, so I'm not thinking these negative things. And that's true for enrollments, and it's also true for staff, because if we think to ourselves, oh, I really need some amazing staff people, but man, our orientation process sucks, you're going to be sending conflicting messages and you're not going to be attracting the right results to you. So that's, to me, where that comes into play big time, is what are you thinking about your processes, about what you have in place, and whatever it is. And you either got to fall in love with it as it is, change it up, make it different, but get your energy in the right spot so you get the right results.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
So let's change gears a little bit, and let's throw a couple of nuggets around driving enrollment before we bring on our special guest today to talk about everyone's topic that they've been asking you about quite a bit. I've got clients that have been asking us about, what are we seeing? And that in no way is our expertise by any means. So throw us a nugget or two, and we'll kind of kind of ping pong and do some fun rapid fire. But what are you seeing, Julie, as some of the strategies for enrollment? And what are you seeing? What are you advising your clients on? Give us some nuggets.
For me, it's all about right now planting seeds and having conversations. And I'm very old school. I'm, very old school where I believe in good relationships. I really believe in building strong, positive relationships. So I encourage people, and I know this is going to overlap with some of your strategies that you teach as well, Michael, is to really pick up the phone, call people. Right now, people are sitting at home or they're thinking about, what do I do with these rambunctious children? How do I get myself on a live video without somebody running by in diapers? Whatever it might be, but it is your opportunity to just think about building relationships. And when I talk about relationship building, I want you to think about your vision being the leading force. Right? So everything you're going to do is an extension of you. It's your vision. So when I think relationships, I think, well, what is it that you like to do to build relationships? And if you're not a people person, well, that's a whole other conversation we need to have. But you got to think, well, what do I like to do? Do I like to give people a call and say, hey, I'm thinking about you? Do I like to send a gift? I love to give gifts. So I'm often giving people, like right over my shoulder, which way is it? This way, flowers. So, I often drop off flowers. On Easter, I went around to family members and some friends. We dropped off pies with the balloons on their doorsteps.
Oh, wow.
But it's all to cultivate. I know, don't you wish you lived closer to me? You may have gotten one.
Yum.
But people were like, and we wrote little notes, on little cards and put them in with the pie. Just said, thinking about you, my life is more blessed because you're in it. Love, Julie and Jim. But you can do that too. My life is more blessed because you're in it. Can't wait to see you again. So and so. So if you need help on what to say, we could have those conversations, but it's really, what's an extension of you and your heart? And this group is very loving. We're very creative. So there's no reason why you can't put that love and that creativity into how you build relationships. So me, it's really about conversations, building relationships. And I really believe, and I encourage another writer downer, as they say, is conversations convert into cash. Conversations convert into a community of followers being on board and excited about your vision. Not having any conversations, you're not going to have enrollments, you're not going to have the staff.
I like that a lot. Didn't you, I think I've seen it where you've done it in the past, or you've kind of done random drop-ins on childcare centers where you've given them a copy of your book and swag or something like that. Do you still do that?
I haven't done it in a little while, but when we were in Vegas for our owners retreat, so one of my team members went around, dropped off books, took pictures of himself with our owners. And that was a lot of fun. Oh, and also on vacation. Sometimes if childcare programs are closed, I'll just leave a book on a doorstep. So be on the lookout for where I'm at. If you want a book, say, hey, Julie, send me one.
Love it.
So definitely love the surprises, I think, with the relationship building. And that's what creates the wow factor, because I studied a little bit with Ken Cragen, who was a promotional manager for Michael Jackson's and everybody's We Are the World tour. And he talked about how we really have to touch and connect with people 3 different levels. Like you could do email, you could do phone call, you could do something in person, but you've got to find like at least 3 different modes of communication to really make an impact and to transform the relationship.
No, that's great. What's coming to mind, piggybacking off of what you said, and then I'll share an idea or two based on what we're seeing.
Yes, can't wait to hear your ideas.
It's all about guerrilla marketing. So what you just kind of suggested, it's a lot of childcare centers think that they need lots and lots of money to produce results. And I do firmly believe that you need money to make money with some of the strategies that we'll share. But at the same token, what Julie's sharing, it's time, energy, imagination, outside the box ideas versus having to put lots and lots of cash into it. Those are the kinds of things that your customers, your families, your parents, they're going to be telling stories about. So one of the things that we've always advocated for, centers always tell us that their number one source of leads before they start working with us is word of mouth, and that still a lot of times is the case regardless. So when they do these referral campaigns, which I encourage you to do once or twice a year, but I kind of pushed back a little bit. And I said, how can you make this into not a stunt, but more of a little bit of a spectacle? So what we did was everyone that referred someone who ended up becoming a family that ended up enrolling, rather than just giving the standard, oh, we're going to give you a discount off your upcoming tuition, which is what a lot of centers do.
Yeah.
We put together kind of a fun spa package and an overnight. So it was the overnight hotel, a really nice dinner, and then a spa for two people. And
Very cool.
the amount of money was almost exactly the same. It was like $250, for example. And if you start to look at, I mean, how much is a new enrollment worth to you?
Oh, yeah.
I would hope that it's worth a lot more than that $250. But
Yes.
what was cool was then these families, or these people that were winning these little overnight excursions, they were posting on social media saying, oh, thank you. I mean, Jane Smith at ABC Learning Academy, you sent us on this great night. We haven't been out of the house in X amount of time. And the other piece I completely forgot to mention was they took care of the babysitting aspect. So what they often did was they actually had the teachers at the center actually go and babysit the kids for that evening. So
nice.
they paid their staff, but they didn't want you to they didn't want any loose ends. They wanted the whole night to be kind of relaxing and enjoyable. So
beautiful.
Definitely just kind of thinking outside the box. But I mean, we're seeing, at least right now, this is an insane opportunity to really start to brand your center and to get your message out there. So one of the things that I really love that you said about kind of, how did you phrase it? Conversations equals cash. Is that what you?
Conversations convert to cash.
I love that. Definitely make sure I'm writing that down myself. We've often said that a conversion. So a lot of people used to think of a hard conversion in terms of, I guess, marketing geek speaks, so to speak, is someone filling out a lead form. And so they're either filling out a form, here's my information, give me a call and see if we're interested in coming in for a tour, for example. But we've been saying that a conversion, the new conversion, is just starting a conversation. So very similar to what you said. And I think I need to be more old school, because the old school tactics are, and I wouldn't even deem it old school. I think a lot of people just, they don't like to pick up the phone nowadays when they really should, because that does relate to better relationships. From a digital standpoint, we're just aiming to drive some kind of conversation. So where we're seeing some really good success with is having the centers that we work with, or just advising in general, we're having them produce 3, 4, 5 really short, like 1-minute videos with their phones. And the videos are designed to do a couple things. So there's a friend of mine / mentor, his name is Dennis YU, and he kind of designed a strategy called the 3x3. And it basically is, his suggestion is that you should create 9 videos, 1 minute each, into the different categories. So you start with awareness videos. And these are videos that are kind of telling your story. They're really just trying to get families to not to do anything. They're not taking any action, but just to see your brand out there.
Yeah.
And what we're finding is, again, even if these families have been referred to you or been coming to you for years, you still have to look at making sure that you're staying top of mind. So these short little videos, and we're suggesting, and we're putting them up on Facebook. So we're running a couple of those videos. Then what we're doing is we're running a couple of more videos that start a conversation. So you've got the awareness videos first, and then you've kind of got the conversation videos. And the conversation videos are really simply looking at how you can get someone to just react to anything. So it could be, here are a couple of tips on an activity to do with your kids at home. Just something to solicit a little bit of action, so that they're starting to engage with you. You're not saying, we're reopening, we're ready to go, we want you to come in, or anything like that. It's simply, here's something of value. What do you think of this? What are you doing at home now to keep your kids busy? Are you ready to kind of get through this pandemic? So first set of videos are, again, awareness videos, and a lot of people call them the why videos. So why did you start your child care center? Why are you doing this? Why did you decide to close during the pandemic, if you want to go down that path, or the other way around? We're advising the centers to really keep it more their core story, so to speak. So going back to their roots of why they actually started the center. And then the second set, again, are the how videos, and those are meant to be engagement. So when I say how, it can just be, again, crafts, activities, different fun things like that. But all that we're trying to do is to get them to engage in a small way. And then finally, the third set, these are the conversion ones. And these are what? So these are short videos that you can say, come in and schedule a tour. If you want to do a virtual tour, we'll do a virtual tour. If you look at enrolling now, we're going to give you free summer camp next year, which is some of the centers that have really gotten, for lack of a better phrase, beaten up. I mean, we're having to get really, really creative to make sure that not only can they reopen, and I know we're going to be talking about cash in just a little bit with Maddie, but you're going to have some of these centers really are going to have to get insanely creative and running the same kind of offers that you've been running of waiving the enrollment fee and 10% off the first month. They might not cut it right now.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that they won't, but you're going to have to be nimble and be able to pivot very, very quickly if you're not seeing something working. So
yeah, and I'll tie it back in with the title of our show too. It's about getting connected, right?
Exactly.
So, and especially when you're talking to women buyers who are mostly the decision makers in the picture here, we like to be courted. It's not like you want to just say, hey, come on, let's get married and enroll in my center. We really want to be like warmed up and, and courted in a way, but that's all the relationship building, which is really important. And if you like that aspect, stay with us for future shows, because we're going to dive deeper into some of those topics. And of course, leave your questions. If you have questions for Michael or I, leave some questions, leave some comments, and we will come back and interact with you and get your questions answered. Was there anything else you wanted to say on that note, Michael, before we bring Maddie on?
No, I think it's just looking at what can you be doing now. I think that to me is the biggest message that I'm trying to encourage the centers that we're working with, and anyone that's asking, they're like, is now a good time to start advertising and start marketing? I always say that the best day to start is yesterday. So
the time is now.
Exactly. Yes. And especially as we're starting to see those glimmers of hope and all of that good stuff, I think it's now the perfect time. So with that, I'm going to let you introduce our special guest. I'm going to add her to the live.
Okay, great. So our guest is Maddie Brown, and Maddie is somebody who's been handling my books for several years now, and she also has some childcare clients, some owners who are working with Maddie and who are incredibly excited that she has taken the task of managing their books off their hands. And she is just a whiz in financial areas, as well as a big student and big fan of Jack Canfield. Right, Maddie?
I love Jack Canfield.
Yes, and so do I. But I had a conversation with an owner the other day. We were on a coaching call, and we were talking about the overwhelm in her mind. And one of the things that she came up, she's like, it's really my books. I gotta get in QuickBooks, and I do it. And I'm like, well, do you like to do it? And she's like, no. I said, well, what could you be doing that would be more in your zone of brilliance that would really help you grow your business? And who could you delegate that to? And I hope she's watching, because I told her we were doing this show today, and I said this will give you an introduction to Maddie, and then you can have a further conversation from there. But Maddie is somebody who will make your life easier, because she's going to set your financial future up for success today, tomorrow, and beyond. So Maddie, big, huge welcome to Connected with Julie and Michael.
Thank you very much for inviting me to be here. I appreciate it. And I one of the things that I always talk about is that money loves attention. And when you pay attention to something, it grows. And so you need to focus on what you want in this world. And what I see as the real opportunity with the coronavirus situation is you have a reset button and you have a moment in time when you can sit down and really think about what you want your life to look like specifically and in great detail, and how do you want it to be, and then you can take action steps. You're talking about taking action, but you first have to have a very clear vision of what it is you want to have.
There's that V word again, right? Vision. Vision is always that leading force.
What does it look like? What does it feel like? What do you really want? And maybe it's what you're doing, and maybe it's not what you're doing. And I always tell people that if they're not happy with the results they're getting, then they should do something different, because insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So one of the Canfield principles that they talk about is E plus R equals O, which is the event plus your response equals the outcome. And we've all been given a tremendous opportunity to pause and think about what we want our lives and our businesses to look like. And people talk about life, work, business balance. And most of my clients are so interconnected with their businesses that they don't distinguish between life and business. They're all intertwined. And so you've got to look at your entire life picture and decide what you want it to be, and then let that guide your actions in how you make decisions about what you do with your life and with your business. Because your business should ultimately support where you want to be in your life. Okay?
Yes, absolutely.
If your business is not supporting you in how you want to live your life, then you need to do something different. And this is a tremendous opportunity to pause and really think about what you want and how you want it to be. Now, I'm a CPA. I've worked with thousands of businesses over the last 40 years. And I've been talking about having a vision for your life and for your business for most of that time. And people talk about vision boards. And I always take that and look at it in relationship to money. Money is not the most important thing, but it touches everything we do.
Yes. Yeah.
And so you need to be very aware of your money and where you're sending your money and where your energy is going and what kind of message that gives to the universe of what you want to have in this world. And your books, your financial records tell a story about you and your life. And I can look at a set of books and I can tell an awful lot about that person just from looking at their numbers. Okay.
Yes.
Looking at where they're investing their money, where they're investing their time, and what kind of results they're getting. And if you want different results, then you need to look at what you are contributing and where you're doing. And that is really fundamental. And a lot of people want to blame coronavirus, or they want to blame the economy, or they want to blame the president. But the reality is, in each moment, you have the power and the ability to choose your response. You can choose what you think. You can choose what you do. You can choose the images that you see. And a lot of people right now are very fearful and they're very scared. Yes. And they're focusing on that fear. And fear is fantasized events appearing real, because fear is nothing more than projecting into the future something that we don't want to happen. Now, if I tell you, I don't want you to think about an elephant, what is the first thing that comes into your mind?
An elephant.
An elephant. Okay, don't is not a good word.
Right.
Anything you bring up, that's what it's going to bring into your mind. And so you need to listen. People come to me and I don't talk like a traditional CPA, okay? And that is because I believe that we're all here to make a difference in the world.
Yes. Yep.
And you've got to be making that contribution to be wholeheartedly into what you're doing. And we work with businesses so that they're more successful and more profitable, and they don't have to worry at night, in the middle of the night, where their money went or what happened to their money or where they're going to get more money.
Or even the basic question of, well, how much money do I have? Because if we're not on top of our books and not really focusing on the money, it's like we don't even know what we have and what we're operating with. And there's a lot of owners, and I don't know about you, Michael, but I talk to a lot of people. It's like, oh, well, if they're looking to make a decision either to move forward with me or with Michael, they're like, well, I don't even know where I'm at or what I have, so let me check and I could get back with you. So people don't even have their fingers on the pulse of their numbers. So this is all brilliant information, and I truly value your being here, and I'm in full agreement with everything that you're saying. And I think we have the opportunity to really reflect and choose what we want and what direction are we heading in and how do we create our reality. But if we're an owner of a business, and let's say we've got a multitude of staff who are working for us, and we feel not only responsible for our financial future, but we also feel responsible for everybody else who's working for us, where do we start? Are there good resources for people right now that they could go to? I mean, how do we take care of our people and take care of what we want? Because what we want, it's to take care of our people in a lot of situations, and to make sure that they're paid and that they're having a decent life, especially through this time.
There's always the airplane story, which is put the oxygen mask on yourself before you put it on the person sitting next to you.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't possibly take care of anybody else.
Right.
And I have employees, and I understand that feeling of responsibility. It's like they depend on me, but they depend on me to be in business. And if I'm going to be in business, then I've got to be making money. And if I'm not making money, I can't pay them, I can't pay me, and things are not going to go well. And you need financial records to inform you about where you are in your business. They're like a health checkup. They're a doctor visit, okay? Mm-hmm. And you look at it and you say, okay, this is working, this is not working. What do I need to do next? And that is the fundamental purpose of your accounting records, is to give you the vision to see what's happened in your business historically, so that you can make choices about how you're going to move forward, okay? Yeah. A lot of people make decisions by saying, gee, I'd really like to work with Julie, and they look at their bank account and they say, well, I can't afford to work for Julie, I can't afford to hire Michael, I can't afford to do what I need to do. And the reality is, a lot of times you can't afford not to, okay? And I always advocate that the first thing that any business needs to have in its arsenal is a good financial plan, okay? Because if you have a financial plan that shows how you're going to be profitable and how many enrollees you need to have and how many hours you need to be open and how many employees you need to have and what your expenses are, what the perfect vision is, then you can make decisions that take you towards that ideal vision. But if you're operating by the seat of your pants and looking at your bank account and saying, yes, I have enough money to pay Julie, or no, I don't have enough money to pay Julie. You're not making decisions that are in alignment with your vision for what you want your business to be.
Yes. And if you're tuning in and you would really like to ask Maddie a question, I encourage you to go to my Facebook business page, or else even Michael's, maybe he'll hop over to his as well. And we'll try to see if there's any questions coming in there. But we did have one of my clients, Angela, who had asked some questions. And can we hit those, Maddie?
Sure.
So, Angela she's on and listening. So she is here. So I wanted to throw one comment, and it's definitely resonating what you're saying, Maddie. One of my first agency, I practiced, I guess, what I would call bank account financial management. And it was, I'd log into my bank account and, okay, great, I'm rich. Look at all this money.
I have money.
And then a day or two later, oh my God, I forgot that there's 3 payrolls in this month, and I forgot my MX bill's $25,000, and oh my God, now I'm poor. So I don't know if I'm sure you've heard of the book Profit First. I ended up
Maddie is a fan of Profit First.
Good. So I'm actually a Profit First consultant. So and I did it selfishly for my benefit, and then really just to give away the content gratis, but to help kind of other agency owners like myself. But that was one of the biggest transformations that we had. Was similar to the pay yourself first concept, but making sure that I'm actually transferring profit into an account, and then that money does not get put back in. Because what I was doing with my agency, the first one, was I'd pay myself a salary, and I don't know, let's say I paid myself, $5,000 for the month. Oh, geez, well, no, I don't have enough money for payroll, so I better take 4,000 of that and transfer that back in. And but changing over to the profit first mentality, and it took a little bit of work initially, but we run off it meticulously now, and we're having that robust financial plan that you'd mentioned, in my opinion, now more than ever, is so important.
Yeah, I have a lot of clients that use Profit First. Some people use it better than others, and some people are not disciplined enough to stick with it. Okay, they will be really good for the first month or the first 6 weeks. Do I hear an echo of some kind?
Yeah, they may have been coming from my page. I wasn't sure, but I closed it down.
Okay.
So I apologize.
And there, it's funny. I've been in the accounting business for 40 years, and Profit First is really kind of a version of the old envelope system, in which you got out envelopes every week when you got your money, and you put your grocery money in an envelope, and that was what you had to spend on your groceries.
That's how my parents did it. They still do it to this day.
Yeah, and that's kind of what Profit First does. Yeah, in a more advanced characteristic. And I think anything that gets you to routinely pay yourself and make sure you're getting money. I like to set aside 10% for what I call wealth creation. Okay. And you never use that 10% of your money for anything that isn't growing and expanding. So investments, real estate, using it for things that are going to grow in value. And one of the most interesting things that I see is people need to use the profit first mentality. They need to pay themselves, and then they put the money back into their business because they're not prepared to make that commitment. So I encourage people to really start small. There is an app called Acorns that has an interesting dynamic. It rounds each transaction up to the nearest dollar, and it invests. So if you have a $1.45 transaction, it puts 55 cents into your investments. And you can add additional amounts, and you can add to it on a basis that makes sense for you. But it really is a subtle way to begin putting money away and taking it out of your regular checking account and into a location that's a little harder to get to so that you can't get back into it and spend it. And it actually becomes a game to see how much you can grow that money into in how short a time period. And if you can kind of switch your mindset around to where it is a game to see how much I can accumulate, okay, and what that is going to do for me, then it grows. And when you see it growing, then it reinforces the behavior. And you reinforce the behavior, it's more likely to continue. And you can really create surprising results with very small actions. And so when I see people move into profit first, I will say, even if you start with 1%, it doesn't have, if you can't do the full 10%, you can at least do 1%. Yeah. And you have to have a structure of what you're going to do with your money so that you know where it's going to go. And if you know where it's going to go, then as it comes in, you can allocate it to where it belongs. Yeah. But most people don't have the structure in place to know what they did. They say they would like to have another big client come in. So if you got another $10,000 in your bank account, what would you do with it today? What would you do with it? Do you know what to do with it? I will tell you one thing to do with it is to put $1,000 in savings. Okay?
Yeah.
And not take it back out again, but put it in there and leave it. And I can't tell you what the rest of that business model looks like without looking at your business and looking at your records and having a clear picture of where you want to go. And when you've got the picture of where you want to go, you've got the records that you want to have, you will have a strategy for where that $10,000 should go. And when you have that strategy, it's like putting a GPS destination in a car. If you want to go to Los Angeles, you're going to put in the address and you're going to determine how you're going to get there.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have that GPS destination, God knows where you'll end up. Okay?
Yes. Yeah.
And you need the destination in mind so that you can effectively make decisions to take you closer to that destination.
Absolutely.
And you're always going to have on course and off course. Okay? Yeah. And we're almost always off course. But the narrower you make the differences, the closer you get, the faster. So
go ahead. I'll let you finish that point.
People sometimes ask me how long do I need to talk, and it's like I can talk for a long time. I tend to have a lot.
I think all of us can do that. But let me just say, I want to, just going back, I want to really get inside the heads of our childcare owners and directors, and especially our owners. Many of them will come from a place of not even paying themselves. So when I'm working with them, and I'm sure that you've encountered this too, Michael, is that the mindset is so far away from where they need to be building prosperity in their lives. And one of the strategies that I give them is just take $10. If you can't see 1,000, what can you see? And take it, and I'll use like Capital One, and I have money just automatically drawn out so that you do have what I call a prosperity account that's just building. Because if you're always operating on a deficit where you're feeling like you're not even paying yourself, you don't have a strong foundation to attract more money to you. And I think that's really important. So even right now with this pandemic, and if you say, right now I'm only operating with 25 kids and I usually have 170 kids, it's a really good time to start building this muscle where you're looking at taking care of yourself first, like Maddie used the oxygen mask scenario. But can you take $1 of every enrollment payment that you get, and put that in a prosperity jar for yourself. And when that prosperity jar gets to be $20, can you take that and put that into an account? So you start really building that muscle so that you're building something for yourself. And I've even worked with clients who have 6, 7, 8 centers, and they're doing millions of dollars in business, but they still don't have anything for themselves, and they're still not paying themselves what they should be. So you've got to just start doing it at some level, a dime, a quarter, the money you find on the street. But when you start saying, oh, look, and Jack Canfield used to tell this story too, where it's like when he was building his prosperity, he would say, I would find a penny, and I would go, woohoo, here's a penny. I can't believe a penny just made its way into my life. Where people are like, oh man, that's only a penny. I need $100, or I need $1,000. I need 10. So it's starting to celebrate everything that's coming to you. You find a penny, and I've got a money jar behind me. You put that in your money jar and you go, woohoo, that's the universe showing me more is on its way. You're excited about that. But you got to start with where you are. Just like when you're going to the gym and you're working out, you're not going to go and lift 100 pounds. You might go and start with the 5-pound dumbbells. So start with where your level of comfort is, but just start taking care of yourself.
Absolutely. And we've got a lot of people that are really scared right now. And this has pointed out the weaknesses that we have. And now we have the choice of how we're going to respond to that.
Yes.
Okay. And we've got all kinds of different things we can do, but if we have a clear vision of where we want to be and what we want to come out on the other side, we're going to be more successful going forward, and we'll be stronger because we have pointed out the weaknesses in our systems and our procedures. Okay.
Absolutely.
And so the potential to come out on the other side of this stronger and more financially sound is completely a reality. This is an opportunity to shift, pivot. There's a lot of the word pivot going on right now. There's a lot of shifting going on in terms of what people can and should do. We probably should talk for a couple of minutes about all the SBA loans that are available.
And I also want to, before we wrap up, I want to go through Angela's questions too to make sure we get those. But that's, and I didn't know if Michael had anything to add. I know we've got just.
No, I'd love to add one thing on to what Maddie just said, and then let's answer Angela's questions and
talk about the loan.
Give an update on the loan stuff, because that's all that I've been hearing about all day, every day. But so. I to your point, Maddie, I think this really, to me, has opened up my eyes and a lot of the childcare center owners that we work with to see where their weaknesses are in their business. And if you were operating on a shoestring where it was month to month, I mean, that very quickly shows that something has to change. Yeah. And I mean, I'm a huge believer in, paying yourself first. And I know we're all in this to serve and to work with kids and families and make an impact. And I'm the same way. But as I loved Maddie's analogy, and I haven't thought of that analogy in quite some time, of you got to put your oxygen mask on first.
Yes.
The business has to be supporting you and your family, because then, and it's obviously it's an energy thing, but it's also just a reality thing. One of the fun projects. So I made my bucket list a year or two ago, and one of the things on there was to get my master's. And it's just been one of those things that I wish I would have done way back when. So I'm on the second year, and I've got a couple of months left. And I'm doing my dissertation on the dark side of entrepreneurship. So I've been interviewing, I think I'm up to almost 150 entrepreneurs that had to close down their business. And my hypothesis originally, when I started writing this project, was that it was not just cash, what was one of the main reasons, but I selfishly wanted to see, had they done more marketing and better marketing, could that have saved their business? Yes or no? And in a lot of cases, it was yes. But a lot of the cases, it came back to cash and managing cash. And that was quite a few of the cases. But surprisingly, a lot of them, there was like this insane event, like the straw that broke the camel's back. And in the case of COVID-19, I think that sadly is breaking a lot of businesses. And a lot of these other ones I interviewed, it was divorce, my partner embezzled money, our building burned down. Like I heard some of the craziest stories, but almost every one of those 150 or so cases, there was like one big event that put them over the edge. Mm. And the reason I'm sharing that story is that, to your point, Maddie, I think this does show where the owners and directors are vulnerable from a cash standpoint, and really kind of how are you going to have to reinvent your business a little bit? How are you able to make sure that you can weather a storm, and whether it's not just weathering it financially, but is there some other pivots that you have to make? And should you quickly go offline, which is not offline, should you be more virtual, which I think will be a good topic for a different day. But it definitely, at least the conversations that I've been having with a lot of these centers, one of the most successful centers that I've ever worked with, that I will not name, they lost thousands of enrollments across all their locations, and they were thriving, making millions and millions of dollars, as you said, Julie. And they have not been able to weather the storm. And I wasn't managing their money by any means, but I think it really shows some vulnerabilities. But kind of bringing back the conversation, I know, Maddie, I'm sure you've got some suggestions on what are some of the things that the childcare centers can do now. How can they take advantage of some of these different loan programs, the EDL, the PPP? And again, I know Angela has a couple of questions about the PPP and how do you budget for, her question is recommendations for budgeting expenses in a low income time frame. So we'll turn it back over to you. And I just wanted to kind of, I guess, play off of your story. But I think everyone's going to come out of this stronger. Like I personally, it's showing a lot of vulnerabilities that I had in my business. Yeah. We had a lot of revenue tied up in some huge clients that got decimated by COVID, and then that killed our revenue. So we're starting to kind of widen our reach a little bit, and but it's been a good learning experience. So
well, absolutely. So I just want to put this up that we're going to try to wrap up in about eight-ish minutes or so. So we're going to move fast through Angela's questions and maybe giving some information about the different loans and opportunities. And then we'll also give you some information. Well, let's do this now. Maddie, if people are interested in having further conversation with you about your services, let's give them your contact information so they could stay in touch. And also, Maddie, I believe, is a follower on my business page too. So put your questions in there. If there's something that kind of struck a nerve with you, you don't understand, or maybe it just kind of rubbed you the wrong way, or maybe it was like, woo, yeah, tag Maddie Brown, and just go ahead and list your questions or your comments there, and we'll make sure that they get answered. But Maddie, where can people reach out to you for more information?
Well, my website is called smashingnumbers.com, and we believe your numbers can be smashing. And
I love that.
And on the other hand, we're also an accounting firm, and so we smash the numbers.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a lot of fun with that, and you'll notice that my hold music on my phone is Bobby McFerrin's "Be Happy." Okay, so your money doesn't have to be a point of stress. It can be a strength that you have that you can pay attention to. And if you want more information, there is a free consultation page on smashingnumbers.com. There is also a webinar that I did on April 11th about all of the money that is available for COVID disaster relief. There's several different loans that are available, and you can take a look at that webinar. It's about 30 minutes, and it goes through everything that is available. I will tell you that hope is not a strategy. okay, you need a strategy. And you can apply for these loans, but do not hang your hat on getting one of them. You need to take the time right now to say, what do I need to do to be profitable next month? And apply for the PPP loan, which is a payroll protection loan, which has an element of forgiveness of based upon the payroll that you pay. But the PPP loan is strictly based on payroll, rent, utilities. There is an economic injury disaster loan, and that is more based on operating expenses. And you need to get your applications in. The economic injury loan, you apply through the SBA. The PPP, you apply through a bank or you can go through Bluevine or you can go through Lendio. So there are some options on how you can get it. But please do not hang your hat on getting one of those loans. Sit down today and make a business model that financially works for your family. And I want your business to generate. When I talk about cash planning, I start at the bottom. I say, how much money do I need to live on? And if that number is $5,000, then how much are my business expenses? And how much do I actually need to generate in order to have this $5,000 at the end of the day?
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't make a scenario where that works financially, you need to do something different, and you need to do something different now. And
that's the truth. That's the truth, is to really look at your business model, and is it one that works? That's so important.
And how many enrollments do you need? At what price point? How many hours? How many days? How many students? And one of the best things you can do, I want to tell a quick story about one of my clients that I started working with about 4 or 5 years ago. And we sat down and we said, we're going to be strategic. We're going to put money in the savings account. We're going to put money aside for taxes. We're going to put over your personal expenses. Last year, she bought a house. She had a down payment to put on a house. And I talked to her earlier this month, and she said, I want to thank you because we are not in trouble right now. We are okay. Awesome. And she said, that's because of working with you.
Yes.
And getting strategic about her money. She was making $400,000 a year. And 3 years ago, she had credit card debt and she had nothing to show for it.
Wow.
So
good thing there was you who came in and said, let's get this plan together and let's make sure you've got a sustainable model.
Right.
Okay. So can I read Angela's questions to make sure we've got those covered?
Yes.
Okay, Angela, and I know she's been hanging on and probably going, okay, let's talk about my questions. Okay, so let's just, there we go. I won't put us up on Facebook. Bear with me for a second here. Okay, so she wanted to know, number one, my staff is working reduced hours since we are on low attendance. Should I pay my staff more than hours worked to make sure I spend at least 75% of the PPP funding on payroll to make it a forgivable loan? Did you get that?
Yes, I got that, and it's not an easy question to answer. Okay. I think I would focus first on what you need to be profitable, and then think about how it impacts on the forgiveness of the PPP loan. Okay. So I would not pay expenses that are not in alignment with the business success model that you have in place. If you can pay them and they can generate revenue for you, then I would say yes. But if it's just providing the expense so that the loan will be forgivable, I'd rather that you paid back the loan.
Okay. So then it just really depends on her model if she should pay her staff at that 75% level,
Right.
All right. So Angela, I'm not sure if that's a clear-cut answer, but it seems like, that's a real tricky question.
It is a real tricky question, and there's a lot of variables that go into it. And Angela, if you would like to make an appointment, go to smashingnumbers.com and set up a consultation. I'll be happy to talk to you.
Yeah, and I highly appreciate that. So Angela's second question is, what recommendations do you have for budgeting expenses in a low income time frame? So the COVID-19 income is not meeting the bills I committed to pre-COVID-19.
Well, the most important thing is to sit down, look at what your bills are, and communicate with the people that you are not going to be able to pay. And if you are upfront with them and take a responsible attitude towards working with them, everyone is going to work with you. I mean, that's just a reality. But the key thing is communication and keeping the people that you cannot pay as informed as possible about when they can be paid. And think about not taking on more services from them if you can't pay them at this point.
Yeah, that's true. And also, I would just also advise to make sure you know what your numbers are. So it goes back to what Maddie's saying about planning. Write what you need down. And sometimes there's magic, and Maddie knows this too, and just writing those numbers down and your ability to manifest that money. If you don't have it written down, there's no way that you're going to start attracting that money. Because like I said, I think I said this on the first show, we had clients who are saying, somebody came in for an enrollment and they prepaid in full, and that's thousands of dollars that they didn't expect right now during this time. So get clear on your numbers. Okay, Angela's last question is, what recommendations do you have for follow-up on old customers that have left outstanding bills? We're going to do a whole show on that one, I think, but Maddie, we'll hear what you have to say.
I wish I had a crystal ball, because everybody has uncollectible accounts. I've never seen a business that doesn't have uncollectible accounts for one reason or another. One of the best things that I recommend is that you have a consistent, every month, every 2 weeks follow-up procedure that you touch base with those people and remind them that you're there. Okay? So communication and staying on top of it, but it doesn't serve any purpose to let them get 3, 5, 6 months behind and then start communicating with them. You want to communicate and pay attention to them before they get behind. And that is an indication of, and I have this exact same thing happens to me, but if we don't set good boundaries about how we expect to be treated in our business, then we will suffer the consequences when people don't treat us in a way that we left them. People treat you the way you teach them to treat you.
Absolutely. And I think it's a good time too to be looking at, if that is happening, where is it that you can make an improvement? So where is it that you can improve your communication, your collections, whatever it might be? And then sometimes it's relationship building. And I have a Bible that I call the Prosperity Bible on my desk behind me. It's the Dynamic Laws of Prosperity. And I think it's in that book where they share about collecting on past due debts. And I think you might have this book, Angela, so I'll try to find that for you. But sometimes it's just a communication from a heartfelt, empathetic way. And one of the words that I've been using too, and I really encourage you, write these words down, is that I know it is your intent to honor your word. And that strikes home with a lot of people. And when I tell them that, they're like, yeah, it really is my intent to honor. So whether I'm advising clients on how to collect money, I say use those words because people want to be held accountable to the good words and to good things about themselves. So when you say, I know it's your intent to pay, what can we work out? What is it that you can do? Well, Maddie Brown, thank you so much for joining us here on
Thank you for having me.
with Michael and Julie and Michael. Michael, do you have anything to say to Maddie before we let
No,
Maddie
that was great information, great content. I would love to end our show real quickly with one key action item from each of us, and then we'll end with a quote. I've got a short but sweet quote from Walt Disney today, one of my favorite
fantastic love
speakers. So we'll start with our guest, Maddie. What would be the one action item that our listeners should move the needle on and give them a little bit of homework for today from you?
The one action item that I always recommend is on Mondays. Every Monday you sit down and you open your bank account, you look at how much money you have, you look at your bills, you pay your bills, you close up your bank account, and you spend the entire rest of the week focusing on how you can serve and how you can grow your business and how you can market and make money. And then the following Monday, you do the same thing again. Don't spend all week fretting and worrying about it. First thing Monday morning, schedule out your cash flow for the week, put it aside, and work on how you can help and serve others at this point in time.
Love it. Julie, what about yourself?
Ooh. I'm going to go with get excited about money. Focus on money, find money. When you're out for your daily walk, look around. I mean, I've had 20s blow through my front yard at different times. I've had money stick to the bottom of my feet when I'm swimming at Lake Geneva. I've had crazy things happen. And I have clients who somebody walks in and hands them thousands of dollars saying no strings attached. So focus on money and let yourself get excited about the possibilities and what you're going to be doing with the money. So really get yourself in sync with feeling positive. So my challenges for you between now and our next show, will be Tuesday at 9:00 a.m., see how much money you could find, whether it's a penny on the ground, and then just get a jar and leave the jar with no lid on it and just let yourself become a magnet for the money that you want to attract. And you're going to be surprised as to where you start finding money. And it doesn't mean you go look through your spouse's pockets and find money. I just want to clarify that. But it's just about letting the money come in and letting yourself be surprised and excited and grateful for every penny that shows up in your life.
Love
How about you?
Mine, I really loved Maddie's quote and phrase around you've got to put your oxygen mask on first. And yes. I think a lot of us, we come from a place of wanting to serve, needing to serve, and wanting to do everything that we can. But if we're going down, you can't save the ship. And you've got to make sure that you, as the owner of the business, as one of the leads in the business, are taken care of first. So great episode. We're going to end with a positive quote. So I've got a real short quote from Walt Disney. This is actually framed in my other office. And it says, all of our dreams can come true if you have the courage to pursue them. So I'm a huge fan of Walt Disney. So thank you ever so much, everyone, for tuning in, for Get Connected. Make sure you join us this coming Tuesday, again, 9:00 Central Time, 10:00 Eastern. Again, Maddie, thank you ever so much for coming on today. Enjoy the rest of your weeks, everyone. Have a good weekend, and we will catch you back here next week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Pursue those dreams.